Have you ever waited years for the happiest day of your life, only to watch it fall apart before you even got to hold your baby? I have. And if someone had told me that the man I'd trusted for nearly a decade would destroy our family before our daughter was even an hour old, I would have laughed. Because I believed my husband was the most honest man I'd ever known. His name was Daniel Brooks. Or at least, that's who I thought he was. My name is Claire Brooks. I'm 35 years old, and for almost 10 years, Daniel was my entire world. We weren't one of those couples who constantly posted romantic pictures online. We weren't perfect. We argued about laundry. He forgot anniversaries sometimes. I always left my coffee cups in the living room. He complained about it every single week. Normal things. Real things. That's why I never questioned us. Because nothing about our marriage felt fake. At least, not until the day our daughter was born. People think infertility only hurts when the pregnancy test says no. They are wrong. It hurts at birthday parties. It hurts when your friends announce another pregnancy. It hurts when someone casually asks, "So, when are you two finally having kids?" As if love follows a schedule. Daniel and I spent almost 7 years trying to become parents. 7 years. 3 miscarriages. Countless doctor's appointments. Hormone injections. Surgery. Thousands of dollars. And more tears than I could ever count. Every time I wanted to give up, Daniel was the one who kept me going. He'd hold my hand and smile. "We'll get there. I promise." That promise became my reason to keep trying. Then, one cold October morning, everything changed. I was standing alone in our bathroom, staring at a pregnancy test. 2 pink lines. I looked at them for almost 5 minutes because I couldn't believe they were real. My hands were shaking so badly that I accidentally dropped the test into the sink. Daniel came running upstairs after hearing me cry. He thought something terrible had happened. Instead, I handed him the test. He looked at it. Looked at me. Then wrapped both arms around me so tightly I could barely breathe. "We are finally going to be parents." That night, we didn't sleep. We stayed awake talking about names. Who she'd look like. Whether she'd love baseball like Daniel or books like me. For the first time in years, the future didn't scare us. The pregnancy wasn't easy. Because of my history, every appointment felt like another exam. Every ultrasound came with fear. I'd hold my breath until the doctor smiled. There she is. Healthy. Growing. Strong. Daniel never missed an appointment. He painted the nursery himself. He spent hours building the crib. Every night before bed, he'd kneel beside my belly and whisper, "Hurry up, princess. Daddy can't wait to meet you." Looking back now, those words haunt me the most. The night before my due date, we sat together in the nursery. Daniel was putting tiny socks into a drawer. He picked up one pair. The smallest pink socks I'd ever seen. He laughed. "I can't believe someone this tiny is about to take over our lives." I smiled. "I hope she looks like you." He kissed my forehead. "No. I hope she has your heart." If someone had taken a picture of that moment, they would have seen a happy husband. A loving wife. A family about to begin. No one would have guessed. It was the last peaceful night we'd ever have together. Labor started at 2:17 the next morning. Daniel drove faster than I'd ever seen him drive. He kept apologizing every time we hit a red light. I know it hurts. I'm trying. 20 hours later. After the longest day of my life. Our daughter finally arrived. The first cry echoed through the room. Every fear disappeared. Every painful memory. Every miscarriage. Every lonely night. All of it suddenly felt worth surviving. The nurse wrapped our baby in a soft blanket and carefully placed her into my arms. She had thick dark hair. Tiny little fingers. And the cutest nose I'd ever seen. I whispered through my tears. "Hi, sweetheart. I'm your mommy." She squeezed my finger. And in that exact moment, I understood what people meant when they said love could change your life in a single second. The nurse smiled at Daniel. "Dad, would you like to hold your little girl?" He had been standing near the window. Quiet. Much quieter than I expected. I smiled. "Come on. She's waiting for you." He didn't move. I thought maybe he was emotional. Some fathers cry. Some freeze. Everyone reacts differently. The nurse laughed softly. "It's okay. We won't let you drop her." Still. He didn't move. Instead, he slowly looked at our daughter. Then at me. His face had gone completely pale. "Daniel," I asked. "Are you okay?" He swallowed hard. There has to be some mistake." I frowned. "What are you talking about?" He rubbed both hands together nervously. This can't be happening." The room suddenly felt colder. The nurses stopped smiling. One of them quietly looked at the other. I shifted our daughter slightly in my arms. "Daniel. You're scaring me." He took one slow step backward. Then another. His eyes never left the baby. Finally, he whispered, "I can't hold her." I stared at him. "What?" "I can't." The words barely came out. I forced a nervous laugh. "You're just scared." "No." His voice cracked. "I'm not scared. I just..." He closed his eyes for a second. Then looked directly at me. And quietly said the sentence that shattered everything I believed about my marriage. "Claire, I've been lying to you for years." The room became completely silent. Even the heart monitor beside my bed seemed louder than before. I stared at Daniel, waiting for him to smile. To tell me it was a terrible joke. Instead, he looked like a man carrying a secret too heavy to hold any longer. "Claire, I'm sorry." His voice was barely above a whisper. "I've been lying to you for years." I tightened my arms around our daughter. "What are you talking about?" He looked down at the floor. "I never wanted you to find out like this." A strange feeling settled in my chest. Not fear. Not anger. Something worse. The feeling that your entire life is about to split in half. The nurse quietly stepped closer. "Would you like us to give you some privacy?" Daniel nodded. I shook my head immediately. "No." Everyone looked at me. If my husband has something to say, he can say it right here. I wasn't trying to embarrass him. I was simply too exhausted to pretend everything was normal. The nurses quietly stayed by the door. Daniel took a slow breath. About 4 years ago, I met someone. For a second, my brain refused to understand the sentence. You met someone? He nodded. It wasn't supposed to happen. I laughed. Not because anything was funny. Because shock does strange things to people. What does that even mean? It means I had an affair. The words landed like a punch to my chest. I couldn't breathe. I looked at the tiny baby sleeping peacefully in my arms. Then back at him. No. No. You're lying. I wish I was. Every memory from the last 4 years flashed through my mind. The late meetings. The business trips. The weekends he claimed he had conferences. The nights he came home smelling of expensive perfume and blamed it on clients hugging him goodbye. Every excuse. Every explanation. I had believed all of them. Because trust fills in the blanks with hope. How long? I finally asked. Daniel closed his eyes. Almost 4 years. 4 years. That wasn't one mistake. That wasn't one bad decision. That was a second life. While I was crying after another miscarriage, he had been with someone else. While we were choosing baby names, he had been lying to another woman too. I looked at him with tears in my eyes. Does she know you're married? He didn't answer. Daniel. Answer me. He slowly shook his head. No. I felt my stomach drop. What did you tell her? He whispered. I told her I was divorced. For a moment, I forgot how to breathe. He hadn't only lied to me. He had built another relationship on another lie. 2 women. 2 completely different lives. One dishonest man standing in the middle. Does she have children? The question escaped before I could stop it. Daniel hesitated. Then nodded. My heart sank. Is one of them yours? A long silence filled the room. Finally, he answered. Yes. The room started spinning. I couldn't hear anything except the ringing in my ears. You have a child. He nodded without looking at me. A little boy. He's 3 years old. That meant while I was recovering from my 3rd miscarriage, Daniel had been holding another baby. Calling himself a father. Living the dream we'd spent years praying for. With someone else. I looked down at my daughter. She was asleep. Peaceful. Completely innocent. She had entered the world less than an hour ago. And already her father had broken her heart. The nurse quietly wiped a tear from her own face. Even she looked devastated. Daniel took one step closer. I never stopped loving you. I looked at him in disbelief. Don't. What? Don't insult me with that sentence. He lowered his head. I mean it. If you loved me, you wouldn't have let me spend 7 years blaming myself for not giving you a child. Tears rolled down his cheeks. I know. No. You don't. You watched me cry after every miscarriage. You held me while I apologized for something that was never my fault. And all that time, you were already somebody else's family. He had no answer. A knock interrupted the silence. My parents walked into the room carrying balloons. My mother smiled. Where's my granddaughter? Then she saw my face. The smile disappeared instantly. Claire. She looked at Daniel. What happened? I opened my mouth. But no words came out. Daniel spoke fast. I need to leave. My father frowned. Leave. My granddaughter was just born. Daniel couldn't even look at him. I'm sorry. He picked up his jacket. Walked toward the door. Then stopped. Without turning around, he quietly said, I'll send money every month. I stared at him. Money? Was that all he thought fatherhood meant? My voice became colder than I'd ever had it. Our daughter doesn't need your money today. She needed her father. Daniel's shoulders trembled. For one brief second, I thought he might come back. Hold his daughter. Apologize. Fight for his family. Instead, he opened the door and walked away, without ever touching the little girl he had once begged God to give us. The room stayed silent for several seconds. Finally, my mother rushed to my side. What happened? I looked at my daughter. Then whispered the 5 words that changed everything. He has another family. My mother's face turned white. My father didn't say a single word. He simply turned toward the hospital door, as if he wanted to drag Daniel back inside himself. But it was too late. Some decisions can't be undone. Late that evening, after everyone had gone home, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. For a moment, I considered ignoring it. Then I answered. Hello. A woman's nervous voice came through the speaker. Is this Claire Brooks? Yes. There was a long silence. Then she whispered something that made my blood run cold. My name is Emma. And I think we are married to the same man. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Daniel walking out of the hospital. Not once had he looked back. Not once had he kissed his daughter goodbye. The little girl we had waited 7 years to meet had become fatherless before her first sunrise. At 6 the next morning, my daughter began to cry. For the first time since everything happened. I smiled. She didn't know her father had left. She didn't know our family had fallen apart. She only knew one thing. Whenever she cried, someone came. And I silently promised myself she would never have to wonder whether she was loved. Around 9 o'clock, my phone rang again. The same unknown number. I hesitated. Then answered. Hello. The woman from last night spoke softly. My name is Emma. I know yesterday wasn't the right time. But I really need to talk to you. I closed my eyes. What do you want? I don't want anything from you. I just think we've both been lied to. There was something about her voice. She didn't sound angry. She sounded broken. Just like me. When did you meet Daniel? I asked. Almost 4 years ago. My heart sank. Did he tell you he was divorced? Yes. He even showed me what looked like divorce papers. I laughed bitterly. They were fake. There was a long silence. Finally, she whispered. I know. My breathing stopped. You know. I found out yesterday. How? He left the hospital. Came to my apartment. And told me everything. I gripped the phone tighter. What exactly did he tell you? He said. He'd destroyed both our lives. For the first time, I realized something. Daniel hadn't gone home after leaving me. He'd gone to Emma. Even after abandoning his newborn daughter. His first instinct had been to protect his second life. I don't expect you to forgive me, Emma continued. I wouldn't forgive me either. You didn't cheat on me. He did. I know. But I still feel guilty. I stayed quiet. Because if our places had been reversed, I'd probably feel the same way. Can we meet? She finally asked. I think there are things you deserve to know. I looked at my sleeping daughter. Every instinct told me to hang up. To protect myself. To never hear Daniel's name again. But another voice inside me whispered. If you don't face the truth now, you'll spend the rest of your life wondering. Okay. Tomorrow. Public place. I'll text you the address. The next afternoon. My mother stayed with the baby while I drove to a quiet cafe across town. I'd barely slept. I'd barely eaten. I almost turned the car around 3 times. But I forced myself to go inside. Emma was already there. She stood the moment she saw me. She looked nothing like I had imagined. She wasn't glamorous. She wasn't arrogant. She wasn't the woman who had stolen my husband. She looked exhausted. Scared. Ashamed. Just another woman whose world had collapsed. I'm so sorry, she whispered. I didn't know. I believed her immediately. Because people who are pretending usually defend themselves first. Emma didn't. She apologized before she even sat down. For almost a minute. Neither of us spoke. Finally. She placed a photograph on the table. It showed Daniel. Standing beside a little boy. Curly brown hair. A huge smile. Daniel was kneeling beside him. Holding a birthday cake. He told me his name is Noah, Emma said quietly. Our son. I stared at the picture. The same man who refused to hold my daughter. Looked happier than I'd ever seen him. A tear rolled down my cheek. He wanted him. But not her. Emma slowly shook her head. No. I don't think that's true. I looked at her. What do you mean? He loved talking about your pregnancy. I frowned. What? He used to tell me. My biggest regret is hurting someone who never deserved it. I never understood what he meant. I felt my chest tighten. If he loved our daughter, why had he walked away? Nothing made sense. Emma reached into her handbag. I found something after he left yesterday. She placed an envelope on the table. He asked me to keep this safe months ago. I never opened it. She gently pushed it toward me. I think it belongs to you. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside were hospital bills, fertility treatment receipts, ultrasound photos. Every single one belonged to me. Even the first picture of our daughter. I looked at Emma. Why would he leave this with you? I don't know. There was also this. She handed me a folded letter. The front simply read, "For Claire, if I ever lose the courage to tell her the truth." I felt my heart pounding. The envelope had never been opened. I unfolded the paper. The handwriting was Daniel's. The first line read, "Claire, if you're reading this, it means I finally lost everything I spent years trying to protect." I couldn't breathe. I continued reading. "You probably think I cheated because I stopped loving you. That's the biggest lie you'll ever believe." Tears blurred the page. Emma watched silently. She hadn't read it either. I turned to the next paragraph. Then, my eyes stopped. I read the same sentence 3 times. No. I whispered. Emma leaned forward. What is it? I slowly looked up at her. My voice barely worked. Daniel knew I was pregnant 6 months before I told him. Emma frowned. How? I looked back at the letter. The next sentence made my blood run cold. Because someone inside the fertility clinic had been watching us. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I looked at the letter again. The words blurred through my tears. Emma sat across from me in complete silence. Neither of us knew what the next page would reveal. I took a deep breath. And kept reading. Claire. If you're reading this, it means I waited too long to tell you the truth. You'll probably think everything I did was because I stopped loving you. I didn't. That doesn't excuse what I became. It only explains how I got there. I swallowed hard. Every part of me wanted to throw the letter away. But another part needed answers. After your 3rd miscarriage, I watched you blame yourself every single day. You smiled in front of everyone. Then cried yourself to sleep every night. I couldn't fix your pain. Instead of standing beside you, I ran away from it. A tear rolled onto the paper. I remembered those nights. Daniel would hold me. Tell me everything would be okay. I thought we were healing together. Now I realized. He had already started walking away. I met Emma during one of my business trips. She listened. She made me forget how broken our life had become. One bad decision became another. Then another. Eventually, I wasn't living one life anymore. I was living two. Emma quietly covered her face. I never knew. She whispered. He told me he was lonely because his marriage had ended. I looked at her. We were celebrating our anniversary that month. Her eyes filled with tears. I'm so sorry. For the first time, I believed those words. She wasn't my enemy. She was another victim. I continued reading. Every birthday. Every holiday. I promised myself I would tell you the truth. Then I looked at your face. And I couldn't destroy you. So I lied again. Every lie made the next one easier. I folded the letter. I don't want to read anymore. Emma nodded. You don't have to. But I did. Not because I wanted to forgive him. Because I wanted this chapter of my life to end with the truth. Not questions. The final page was much shorter. When our daughter is born, I know I'll have to choose. I can't ask you to forgive me. I don't deserve that. But please believe one thing. The day I walk away, it won't be because I don't love my daughter. It will be because I'm finally facing the consequences of what I've done. There was no signature. Just one word. Daniel. I carefully folded the letter. Then looked at Emma. So, what happened after he left the hospital? She took a slow breath. He came to my apartment. He cried. He told me everything. He said, I don't deserve either of you anymore. He packed a small bag. I asked him where he was going. He only said, I'm going to tell the truth before someone else does. My phone suddenly vibrated. It was my lawyer, Rebecca Lawson. I answered immediately. Hello. Claire. I've just spoken with Daniel's attorney. My heart skipped a beat. What happened? There was a brief silence. Then Rebecca said, Daniel has filed for divorce. I closed my eyes. It hurt. Even though I knew it was coming. But that's not why I'm calling. What is it? He also signed a legal statement. What statement? Rebecca's voice became serious. He admitted to every affair. Accepted full financial responsibility. Requested sole ownership of nothing. And transferred every marital asset into your name. I frowned. What? The house. Your savings. His retirement account. Everything. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Why would he do that? Rebecca answered quietly. Because he knows he's going to lose. That evening, I returned home with my daughter. The house felt painfully quiet. Daniel's shoes were still by the front door. His coffee mug was still in the kitchen sink. His jacket still hung beside mine. For a moment, I almost expected him to walk through the door. Smile. Apologize. Tell me this had all been a nightmare. Instead, the silence answered me. As I carried my daughter into the nursery, I noticed something lying inside her crib. A small white envelope. I froze. I hadn't left anything there. Slowly, I picked it up. Across the front, in Daniel's handwriting, were 6 words. Open this only after tomorrow's hearing. I stared at the envelope. Then looked toward the front door. Tomorrow's hearing. What hearing? I hadn't been told about any hearing. At that exact moment, Rebecca called again. Her voice sounded urgent. Claire. You need to come to the courthouse first thing tomorrow. Why? She took a deep breath. Then quietly said, Daniel isn't asking the judge to save his marriage. He's about to confess something that will change everything. I didn't sleep that night. The white envelope stayed on my nightstand. I looked at it at least 20 times. Daniel had written only one sentence. Open this only after tomorrow's hearing. Every part of me wanted to tear it open. But I didn't. For the first time in years, I decided I wouldn't do what Daniel wanted. I would do what was right. If he wanted me to wait, I would wait. The next morning, my parents arrived early to stay with the baby. Before leaving, I stood beside my daughter's crib. She was peacefully asleep. I gently kissed her forehead. I'll be back soon. I promise. Then I walked out of the house. Not as Daniel's wife, but as a mother fighting for her child's future. The courthouse was already crowded. Reporters stood outside the entrance. Camera flashes lit up the front steps. The story had spread faster than I expected. A husband abandons his wife hours after childbirth. People love headlines. They rarely understand the pain behind them. Rebecca met me near the security checkpoint. You okay? I smiled weakly. I don't think I even know what okay feels like anymore. She squeezed my hand. You only have to tell the truth. Nothing else. When we entered the courtroom, I immediately saw Daniel. He looked nothing like the man I'd married. His expensive suits were gone. His shoulders were slumped. His eyes were red. For the first time, he looked like a man who had finally stopped running. He noticed me. For a second, our eyes met. He tried to smile. I looked away. Some bridges don't burn. They simply disappear. A few minutes later, the hearing began. The judge reviewed the paperwork, then looked toward Daniel. Mr. Brooks, do you understand the legal statement you signed yesterday? Yes, Your Honor. Did anyone pressure you into signing it? No. Are you making this statement willingly? Yes. The judge nodded. You may proceed. The courtroom became silent. Daniel slowly stood. His voice shook. I betrayed my wife. I betrayed my son. I betrayed the mother of my son. And he paused. I betrayed my newborn daughter before she had the chance to know me. I felt tears filling my eyes. Not because I pitied him. Because hearing those words out loud made everything real. Daniel continued. I spent 4 years convincing myself I could fix everything. I thought if I waited for the right moment, no one would get hurt. I was wrong. The longer I lied, the more people I destroyed. The courtroom remained silent. No one interrupted him. Not even the reporters. Then he turned toward me. I'm not asking for another chance. I'm asking for accountability. Rebecca quietly whispered. Just listen. Daniel looked back at the judge. I've transferred every marital asset to Claire. Our home. Our savings. My retirement account. I don't deserve them. They belong to my daughter. Then he looked toward Emma. And I've established a trust fund for Noah. He deserves better than the father I became. Emma quietly wiped away tears. The judge leaned forward. Mr. Brooks. You understand that financial support doesn't erase your actions. I do. You also understand that this court will decide custody based on the child's best interests. I understand. And if the court limits or supervises your visitation, you will comply? Daniel answered without hesitation. After nearly 2 hours, the judge announced his decision. Primary legal and physical custody of the child is awarded to Claire Brooks. My heart felt lighter. For any future visitation, Mr. Brooks must complete counseling, attend parenting education, and demonstrate consistent involvement before this court will consider expanding parental rights. Daniel quietly nodded. I understand. The judge looked at him one final time. Trust is earned. You'll have to earn your daughter's. The hearing ended. People slowly began leaving the courtroom. Reporters rushed outside. Rebecca hugged me. It's over. I looked around. For the first time in days, I could finally breathe. As I walked toward the exit, someone called my name. Claire. I turned. Daniel was standing a few feet away. He didn't move any closer. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I remained silent. He continued. But someday, when she's old enough, if she asks about me, please don't tell her I didn't love her. My eyes filled with tears. I answered honestly. I'll tell her the truth. He nodded. That's all I deserve. He turned to leave. Then stopped. Without looking back, he quietly said, I rejected her because every time I looked at her, I saw the family I should have protected. I couldn't forgive myself. Then he walked away. This time, he didn't expect me to follow. And I didn't. That evening, I finally opened the white envelope. Inside, There was only one photograph. It was taken the day we learned I was pregnant. Daniel had one hand on my stomach. The biggest smile I'd ever seen on his face. On the back, he had written a single sentence. The happiest day of my life became the day I realized how much I had to lose. I stared at the picture for a long time. Then quietly placed it back inside the envelope. Some memories deserve to stay in the past. Not because they weren't real, but because they can never exist again. As I walked into the nursery, my daughter opened her eyes. She smiled for the very first time. A tiny, sleepy, beautiful smile. I smiled back through my tears. And in that moment, I realized something. Daniel hadn't taken my future away. He had only removed himself from it. I picked up my daughter and held her close. We are going to be okay. I promise. And for the first time, I truly believed it. 3 years passed. People always say time heals everything. They are wrong. Time doesn't erase pain. It teaches you how to carry it. Some mornings still hurt. Some anniversaries still felt heavy. Sometimes I still caught myself reaching for my phone to tell Daniel something funny that Emma had done. Then I'd remember. That chapter of my life had ended a long time ago. But another chapter had begun. One far more beautiful than I'd ever imagined. My daughter, Lily, had become the center of my world. She had my eyes, Daniel's smile, and the biggest heart I'd ever seen. She loved pancakes shaped like dinosaurs. She insisted every stuffed animal had its own bedtime story. And every night before sleeping, she whispered, "I love you, Mommy." Those 4 words healed places inside me that I once believed would never recover. Emma and I stayed in touch. Not because we had planned to. Life simply brought us together. Noah and Lily grew up knowing each other. Not as strangers. Not as enemies. As brother and sister. They laughed together. Played together. Argued over toys. Shared birthday cakes. None of it was their fault. Children shouldn't inherit the mistakes adults make. So we never let them. Daniel kept every promise the court had ordered. He attended counseling. Never missed a child support payment. Sent birthday cards every year. Christmas presents. Little letters. Not because I hated him. Because Lily wasn't old enough to understand. One day, she would decide for herself. Not because I told her what to think. One warm Saturday afternoon, Rebecca called. "I thought you should know." "What happened?" Daniel filed a request. My heart skipped. What kind of request? He wants supervised visitation. I looked through the living room window. Lily was outside drawing colorful chalk butterflies on the driveway. For a long moment, I didn't answer. Finally I whispered. I knew this day would come. A month later, we met at the family visitation center. It wasn't cold. It wasn't dramatic. Just a quiet room filled with children's books, puzzles, and small colorful chairs. Daniel was already there. He looked older. More gray hair. More wrinkles. Life had clearly left its mark on him. He stood the moment we walked inside. His hands were shaking. He wasn't looking at me. He was looking at Lily. The little girl he'd never held on the day she was born. Lily hid behind my leg. She whispered. "Mommy. Who's that man?" I knelt beside her. This is someone who wanted to meet you. She looked at him again. Then smiled politely. The way children smile at strangers in grocery stores. Daniel's eyes immediately filled with tears. The social worker nodded. You can begin. Daniel slowly knelt on the floor, keeping several feet between them. Hi. My name is Daniel. Lily looked at him. I'm Lily. She smiled proudly. I'm 3. I know that too. She giggled. How? Daniel laughed softly through his tears. Because every year, I celebrated your birthday. She tilted her head. Were you at my party? The room became silent. Daniel lowered his eyes. No. I wasn't. Why? Children ask the hardest questions. Because they don't know how to soften them. Daniel looked at me for just a second. Then back at Lily. I made some very bad choices. She thought about that answer. Then simply nodded. Oh. To her. That was enough. Adults complicate things. Children usually don't. For almost an hour. They colored pictures together. Built a toy castle. Read one story. Daniel never tried to hug her. Never pushed. Never rushed. He simply enjoyed being in the same room. Watching the daughter he'd once been too ashamed to hold. As the visit ended, Lily walked toward the door. Then suddenly stopped. She turned around. Ran back to the table. Picked up the picture she'd colored. A little girl. A mommy. And a man standing several steps away. She handed it to Daniel. This is for you. He accepted it carefully. Thank you. Then she smiled and said something none of us expected. My teacher says everybody gets another chance. If they learn from their mistakes. Daniel covered his mouth. Tears streamed down his face. I hope she's right. Lily waved. Bye. Then she took my hand. And we walked out together. 6 months later. Another letter arrived. This one wasn't addressed to me. It was addressed to Lily. I placed it inside the same wooden box. One day, when she was old enough, she could read every letter. Every apology. Every truth. Not because she needed to forgive him. Because she deserved to know where she came from. Years later. On Lily's first day of elementary school. She squeezed my hand and asked. Mommy. Were you scared when I was born? I smiled. A little. She laughed. Were you happy? I looked into her eyes. The same beautiful eyes I'd first seen in that hospital room. Then I answered with complete honesty. The day you were born was the hardest day of my life. She frowned. Really? I nodded. But it also became the best day of my life. How? I gently tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. Because that was the day I stopped building my future around someone else's choices. And started building it around you. She smiled. I love you, Mommy. I love you more. She ran toward her classroom. Without looking back. And that's exactly how children are supposed to begin their future. Sometimes people ask me if I hate Daniel. The answer surprises them. No. I don't. Hate keeps you connected to the past. I chose peace instead. Do I wish things had happened differently? Every single day. But if they had, I wouldn't have become the mother Lily needed. And I wouldn't have discovered how strong I truly was. Daniel once believed he could protect his lies forever. Instead, he lost the woman who trusted him. He lost the family he dreamed of. He lost the life he had spent years trying to build. Not because one mistake destroyed everything, but because every lie demanded another one. And eventually, the truth collected every debt. As for me, I didn't get the perfect ending I had once imagined. I got something better. A daughter who knew she was loved. A home built on honesty. And a future where I never had to question the person looking back at me in the mirror. Because after everything that happened, I finally learned the most important lesson of all. A broken heart can heal. But a life built on truth is something no lie can ever destroy.